From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is your News 8 Daily 8 for Friday, June 10th. Have your rain gear handy today. Some showers and isolated storms developed this afternoon and evening. Severe weather is not expected, but there is a lot going on around town, so just grab your umbrella, your rain jacket, maybe a poncho, not a bad idea. Temperature-wise, pretty comfortable with highs looking to rise in the mid-70s.
For anyone who didn't understand how violent that event was, I saw it, I documented it, and I experienced it. I heard incredibly aggressive chanting, and I subsequently shared that footage with the authorities.
Haunting testimony from the British filmmaker who captured the Proud Boys storming the Capitol. In its first primetime hearing, the House panel investigating the U.S. Capitol insurrection firmly blamed the violence on former President Donald Trump. Wish TV brought you the first in a series of hearings live. Lawmakers say the attack was clearly an attempted coup and a direct result of Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The panel also showed a 12-minute video with images never shared publicly in the past.
We just had protesters, T-circle, breach the line. We need backup. We have a breach of the Capitol. Breach of the Capitol. We need to hold the doors of the Capitol.
The panel is looking to link Trump directly to two extremist groups accused of planning the violence, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. The panel also showed new clips of Trump's White House team and family, who said they did not believe Trump's claims about a stolen election. The first clip you're going to hear right now is from former Attorney General William Barr's testimony. Then the second is from Trump's daughter, Ivanka, in response to Barr.
Agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen.
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
The panel called U.S. Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards to the stand as its first live witness. Edwards offered wrenching testimony, telling lawmakers she slipped in other people's blood as rioters pushed past her into the Capitol. She still hasn't returned to duty after suffering a traumatic brain injury in the melee.
What I saw was just a war scene. It was something like I had seen out of the movies. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were officers on the ground. They were bleeding. They were throwing up. I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
The panel also revealed that former Vice President Mike Pence, rather than Trump, ordered National Guard troops to respond to the violence. Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, testified about a series of calls with Pence.
Very direct, very firm, and to Secretary Miller. Get the military down here, get the Guard down here, put down this situation.
Milley also says Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, wanted to kill the narrative that Pence was making the decisions. The panel also found that Trump responded to chants for Pence's hanging by saying he deserves it. And one of our All Indiana Politics commentators praised Pence for his actions during the insurrection. Our Phil Sanchez spoke with Abdul Hakim Shabazz during Wish TV's special coverage of the hearing.
For anybody who would give Mike Pence a hard time for being Donald Trump's vice president, this was Mike Pence's actually moment to shine, and I really think he did, by basically saying, look, Mr. President, there's no authority in the Constitution for me to stop counting the votes. It's just not possible. He can't do it. And it was Mike Pence who called the National Guard, who called security, while the president did absolutely nothing. So we got to give Mike Pence credit where credit is due on this.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy maintains that everybody in the country has some responsibility for the violence. McCarthy has described the panel as the most political committee in American history.
It has used congressional subpoenas to attack Republicans, violate due process, and infringe on the political speech of private citizens.
And Wish TV's coverage of the panel's hearings continues online. You can watch the entire presentation and read detailed accounts of what lawmakers showed. It's all online right now at wishtv.com and on our news app. There are some signs that the Senate is closer to an agreement on a gun reform law. The House just approved a red flag bill that would let families, police, and others ask courts to take guns away from people who are a risk. Indiana is one of 19 states that already have red flag laws. This week, the House also approved a bill shifting the age minimum for buying semi-automatic rifles from 18 to 21. A bipartisan group in the Senate is working on its own gun measures. For any of them to pass, at least 10 Republicans would have to join Democrats in voting yes.
I think we need to have background checks to make sure that criminals and folks who are court-adjudicated mentally ill, terrorists, I believe they've lost their Second Amendment rights.
There's no clear count on how many Republican senators would vote in favor of some kind of reform, but those working in the bipartisan group say they're optimistic something can pass. And Governor Holcomb wants to send out more payments to people across the state in a new step to fight inflation. He unveiled the plan yesterday, calling for $225 for every taxpayer paid out of the state's growing surplus. The state already sent out a round of $125 checks last month. Democrats have called payments a second choice. They've been calling for Holcomb to suspend the gas tax.
It's something that's immediate, and people need immediate help because they've been immediately hurt by these gas taxes and the rising inflation that we have.
Holcomb says he plans to call a special session before the end of the month to get approval from lawmakers. And critics of Governor Holcomb's plan say it's just a drop in the bucket for those who are really struggling. Pastor David Green leads the concerned clergy of Indianapolis. He says the money is a nice gesture, but isn't targeted to those who need it. He says it won't help minimum wage workers who commute to work and have to pay much more in gas than last year.
We need to give more to some people based on total household income and less to others who have an amount that exceeds a level.
Pastor Green is also calling on Governor Holcomb to suspend the state's gas tax at least for the next few months. The governor says he has no plans to do so at this point. At least 3 people are dead after a shooting at a Maryland manufacturing plant. Authorities say a suspect opened fire at the business in Smithsburg, Maryland, just after 2 yesterday afternoon. That's just 75 miles west of Baltimore. Police say a current employee opened fire, hitting 4 people. 3 died at the scene, and the 4th was left in critical condition. State police chased the suspect before the shooter shot a state trooper in the shoulder. The trooper returned fire and hit the suspect. Both were hospitalized for their wounds. The suspect hasn't been identified, and investigators haven't established a motive for the shooting. Today, an arraignment for a police officer in Michigan facing murder charges. Grand Rapids officer Christopher Schur shot Patrick Leoya to death April 4th after a traffic stop led to a struggle and a deadly shot. The shooting prompted protests and calls for Schur's arrest. Prosecutors say Schur could go to prison for the rest of his life if he's convicted. A new shipment of 110,000 pounds of baby formula has landed in the United States. The shipment's from Germany. It's enough to make 1.6 million 8-ounce bottles. It arrived in Texas yesterday. It's the 3rd flight from Operation Fly Formula, the federal plan to ease the nationwide formula shortage. The White House says it's preparing to roll out COVID-19 vaccines for the youngest of Americans. It unveiled its new plan for children under 5 yesterday. According to the Biden administration, vaccine advisors from the FDA and CDC will review the data from Pfizer and Moderna next week. Officials expect both agencies to sign off on the shots. The White House COVID-19 response coordinator says the data on vaccines is clear.
We know that for kids over 5, vaccines have made a tremendous difference. Kids who are vaccinated are far less likely to get seriously ill from COVID. They're far less likely to end up in the hospital or in the ICU. And they're far less likely to get complications of COVID, like multisystem inflammatory syndrome of children.
The White House says the first shots could be administered as early as the week of June 20th. Eskenazi Health is starting to work on a new health center on the city's east side. It's slated to go in near the Purple Line at the corner of 38th Street and Arlington Avenue. Eskenazi plans to open the health center by 2024. And the Indians will recognize a special part of the city's baseball history this weekend. Players will take the field tomorrow wearing vintage Indianapolis Clowns jerseys to honor the Negro Leagues. The first Negro League team started playing around 1920. For black players, that was the closest they could get to playing pro baseball until Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier with the Dodgers in 1947. The team says the history of the Negro League is an integral part of baseball history.
It's a chance to celebrate those individuals, to recognize the greats that started in the Negro Leagues and maybe got the chance in Major League Baseball and some who didn't.
But there's also opportunity for other people to learn about the Negro League. And like Jackie Robinson played in.
Right.
And
Satchel Paige.
Hank Aaron, all those big names that you see in baseball, they started out in the Negro League.
The game starts at 6 tomorrow night. The players' jerseys will be auctioned off after the game to support Indianapolis Indians charities. And Wish TV is proud to be your true home for the Indianapolis Indians. They're in the middle of a 6-game series hosting the Columbus Clippers. We do have live coverage of tonight's game on our sister station, MyIndy TV 23. Tonight's game starts at 7 o'clock. And Wish TV is honored to be the official media sponsor of the 2022 Indy Pride Festival and Parade tomorrow. It's the first time in 3 years it'll be in person. The parade kicks off downtown tomorrow morning at 10, Saturday morning. Pride Fest begins at 11 right after. To find details on these events, the parking and concerts, just go to wishtv.com. And finally, Wish TV is proud to announce our 3rd annual Great Pasta Push for Second Helpings. You can donate money, $5 feeds a family of 4, or you can donate pasta. They're mostly in need of elbow macaroni and spaghetti. You can grab your phone, go to wishtv.com/pasta. You can type that into your computer browser as well. It'll take you straight to a link where you can donate cash. You'll also find a list of sponsor locations there where you can drop off pasta. Have a great weekend, everybody. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update on demand for even more on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.